Who are you?
I'm Chris.
No. Who are you?
I'm a man.
No, but who are you?
Well, I'm a dad and a husband. I'm an employee and a son, a brother, a friend and a neighbour.
Yes, but who are you?
Well, I guess I'm a white British lower middle class man. I'm born in the north yet living in the south. I'm a creative at heart with people in mind. A teacher by trade yet pastor by call. I'm a soul carer, people free, a joy seeker, church worker. A little shopping, Hyundai driving, musicals watching, NIV reader. Tall, loud, glasses wearing, yellow coated, pizza loving. Overeater, undersleeper, crazy dancer, size 10 feeter.
Good. But who are you?
Why do people always want to know who we are? Why do they always try and put us in a box? Does having a label make us easier to comprehend? From the car we drive to the clothes we wear, from the postcode we live in to the school we attended, from the party we vote for to the music we listen to, they're all labels that communicate something. Our relationship status says something. The job we do says something. The holidays we take, the church we attend, the paper we read, the sports we play. But do they say everything? You see, each of the things so far have been external matters that others can see and judge. But what about all the other labels that are less easy to spot? He's alone, she's depressed, they're in love, I'm a mess. We are victims, you're a bully. Paul's a cheat, Jane is lost. Some labels are worn on the outside, but others are carried deep down inside. Guilty, dirty, orphan, rejected, disordered, disturbed, dysfunctional, disassociated, unloved, unwanted, unworthy, undervalued, a failure, a fraud, a sinner, a saint. Because people will judge you based on what they think they know, what happened in your past or the places that you go. Does our past shape our future? Should we care what others think? So let's go back to the start and come join if you're able. Because the one who sees your heart wants to rewrite the label. You know, the Bible has something to teach us about overcoming negative labels and that can define us. And I'm excited to share with you today. You know, I'm Chris. I'm part of the leadership team here at the Beacon Church in Camberley. And I really do believe that what the Bible has to say on this subject will help you today. Throughout this series, we've been exploring the New Testament, meeting people whose lives have been transformed by an encounter with Jesus. Each of these encounters reveal people who could bear witness to the fact that meeting Jesus led them to being able to enjoy everyday life. Living their life to the full, it was a claim that Jesus made. And he says that it can be possible for us. So we've called this teaching series Enjoying everyday life. I mean, who doesn't want to enjoy everyday life, right? And yet for every one of us, there are things that hold us back, that make that difficult for us to enjoy. And we believe that knowing Jesus better can help you to enjoy life today. Now, today we're going to look at one such person who had an encounter with Jesus and whose life was changed forever. Today we'll look at how to respond when people label you. Now, this story is of a woman who had a notorious past. She was known to the town where she lived for the men that she had seduced and for the income that she had raised through doing so. She's been seen as an outcast in society. She was labeled a sinful woman. She was definitely not someone you would expect for Jesus to be associated with. And yet here in the Bible, we see her story recorded for us in the Gospel of Luke, which is a book in the New Testament. She takes this prestigious role, defying expectation. So why does the writer of this book choose to include an outcast in society, someone who had a bad reputation, who's judged by the world? Well, I think it's because it can teach us, can't it? It can teach us about love and acceptance. It can teach us about the love that Jesus had for all people. It points us to the fact that the labels of our past can actually be rewritten. You know, for some people, it takes real courage to move out of their past and move towards Jesus. And I believe that today there are people who are watching whose lives could be changed by allowing Jesus to rewrite that label. So if that's you, I want to encourage you that there is good news for you today. So, the story. You know, Jesus has been traveling from town to town, telling stories and introducing people to the good news of God. And many people are beginning to show interest. And one of these people who'd shown interest was a man called Simon. Now, he was part of an influential group of religious leaders called the Pharisees. Now, the Pharisees were known for their strict following of the Jewish holy laws. And Simon, who has heard of Jesus' reputation, shows some interest in our main man, Jesus. He invites him to a dinner party at his house to discover more. And the Bible account says this.
When one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him, he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. A woman in that town who lived a sinful life learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house. So she came with an alabaster jar of perfume. As she stood behind him at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. Then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them. When the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, "If this man were a prophet, he would know who is touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she is a sinner."
Ouch. So there it is, that label, sinner. That's what everyone in the room was thinking. Well, with the exception of one person anyway. We'll talk more about that later. But this poor woman has gone to find out more about the man that everyone has been talking about. And in doing so, Simon the homeowner has called her out. He's labeled her, what everyone else is thinking, a sinner. Now, do you, like me, wonder how this woman felt going to this religious man's house, this man that she knew was likely to judge her, to meet Jesus? I mean, surely she was self-aware enough to know what others in the town thought of her, how she was labelled as a sinful woman, how her very presence at this religious man's house was going to turn some heads. I mean, maybe by now she was so immune to it that she didn't care. But you know what I think? I think she probably was aware what people thought of her. I think she did care. I mean, we all do, don't we? We care what others think. So why does she barge her way into this house and put herself through that? You know, when this woman decided that morning to get up and go out and seek Jesus, the man who everyone in town was speaking about, I believe that she knew exactly what people would say, how her label would be on display for all to see. But today, she was going to move beyond her label. And today, we can learn from this woman how to respond when people label us. So here are the 3 things that this woman can teach us about how to respond when people label us. Number 1, we must not let our past limit our future. Number 2, we must choose not to allow other people's perceptions to stop us from moving forward. And number 3, we can make choices today that will shape our future forever. So number 1, we must not let our past limit our future. This is about the internal barriers we can face, the limits we can place on ourselves. When this woman awoke that morning, she came to town with a whole bunch of baggage from her past. I'm guessing her professional life wasn't the only baggage that she carried with her. I mean, it's true today and was true then that for anyone to get to the point where they earned money in the way she did probably meant that life had been hard for her. I mean, culturally, women would be expected to be married, to be part of a family, to be provided for, yet for her, it's likely that this was not her life at all. Instead, it seems that out of desperation, she had turned to soliciting herself in order to survive. Listen, her past was not great, and yet that day, she puts aside her own self and her doubts. She pursues her future. She goes out and seeks Jesus. Now, we've all got baggage, haven't we? Our pasts are full of difficulties. Maybe for you, your baggage is all neat and tidy in a little matching set of cases, so nobody can really see what's going on. Or maybe your baggage is really not that good and it's spewing out and you're struggling to contain it. The zip is breaking and everyone can see it. Whichever it is, I wonder, do you carry a label because of something that you did in your past? Maybe you carry a label because of something that was done to you in the past. Maybe your label comes from the way you look or by the circumstances you find yourself in. Listen, I wonder if there's anyone who carries the label of unwanted. Has that name been spoken over you, maybe by a parent in a moment of anger? Well, we never wanted you anyway. Or by a partner who's told you that they don't love you anymore. Maybe you carry the title of broken. Someone has wronged you or hurt you in some way, and being broken has become an identity that you're known by. Perhaps you've done something in your past and you now carry the label of guilty. Maybe you committed a crime or did something to someone, and despite having paid for it and apologized, you are still tarnished by it. Listen, these titles can be hard to change, can't they? Or what about the label failure? Perhaps you've got a failed marriage in your past or have disappointed your family in some way. Maybe you've not succeeded in achieving your goals time and time again, and today you just feel deflated, like you're a failure. Well, today This woman teaches us not to allow our past to limit our future. Instead, just like that day where she gets up and goes to meet this man Jesus that she's heard about, she puts aside her own feelings, the internal barriers that she could hide behind. She steps outside of her comfort zone, leaves her cave of self-loathing, and she walks into that room, ready to meet with Jesus. She is ready to move on, and she does something about it. So if you want to know how to respond when someone labels you, consider this. Your past does not have to limit your future. Now, the second lesson we can learn here is that we must choose to not allow other people's perceptions to stop us moving forward. This is about the external factors that can limit us. You see, what was Simon's response to her coming to Jesus? His response was to shame her, to call her out as a sinner. Her past was known by many. She had a reputation, and others were not going to let her forget about it. But not so for one person in that room. I mentioned that earlier because for one person in that room, they chose to see the good in her, to believe that she was worth more than the label she'd been given. We'll consider more about this later, but for now, let's consider what is going on for this woman. You see, if she had decided that other people's opinions of her were more important than meeting Jesus that day, she might have stayed at home. She might have missed out on the opportunity to begin a new future. She may have missed out on her feature in the most published book of all time. And as we'll soon hear, she would have missed out on the ultimate gift that she received that day, a new label. I wonder if any of us can relate to that sense of allowing other people's opinions of us to stop us. You know, before I came to work at the church, I was a secondary school teacher, and the start of my teaching career was tough. I felt out of my depth most of the time and faced plenty of challenges along the way. But slowly and surely, I began to grow in confidence and felt I was starting to make a difference. Anyway, a little time after, we began a family, and the time came when my wife and I decided that it was time to move to be closer to our extended family, which meant that we were going to have to relocate. So I began the job hunt. I had an interview, but for whatever reason, I didn't get it, and I just kept on going because I had belief in myself. But after the third and fourth interview, I began to have self-doubts. Anyway, by the fifth interview, I was determined to keep on going somehow. I went to the interview again to be told in my post-interview feedback that the reason I didn't get the job was because I was probably the worst teacher they had ever interviewed. You know, this was the title over my life. Probably the worst teacher ever. You know, for me, this was totally devastating. Not only was someone who was highly respected and had the power to offer me work and the chance for us to be able to move as a family, not only were they declaring that label over me, the worst teacher ever, but it was also confirming the internal doubts that I had been wrestling with. I'd given myself the label that I was a failure. I got in my car defeated. I called to my wife and told her that that was it. I was never going to land the job, and that it was probably time I started reconsidering my whole career. Now, the story didn't end there, because when I arrived home, my amazing wife spoke positively over me and reminded me of the challenges that I had overcome. She reminded me of the many victories in my teaching career to date, and I did apply for another job and was successful. In fact, that job ended up being less than half a mile away from the other school that I'd interviewed in, and that had given me that label. And I went on to have a fantastic time working there. And just 1 year later, whilst in that new school, at a prestigious event for the area where I was teaching, my school became part of the Magna Carta's 800th anniversary celebration. The press were there and some local dignitaries were there too. And some of my pupils that I'd been teaching were going to contribute to the ceremony with a performance that we'd put together. And in that moment, in front of the gathered press and in front of those dignitaries, the head teacher of my new school stood up and she surprised me by wanting to introduce me for the work that we were contributing that day. And as she introduced me, she said these words: "Please welcome Chris McKinley, drama teacher. He is a most amazing teacher and a credit to this school." Wow. It's amazing how in one moment your label can be rewritten. And here in this story, this is exactly what happened. Just like my label had been rewritten, this woman also sees her label rewritten. So if you want to know how to respond when someone labels you, consider this. Don't allow other people's perceptions of you to stop you moving forward. We're going to consider what happened next in this amazing story soon, but first, I'd like us to stop and reflect on what labels we may have over our lives and whether we are ready to make a change as we sing about the faithful God who can love us in this next song together.
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire. In darkest nights, you are close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend. I have lived in the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after me. Have been faithful. All my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, of the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God. Sing all my life. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God.
Welcome back. So far as we've considered how we can respond when people label us, we've said that firstly, just like the woman who put aside herself to go and meet Jesus, we too must not let our past limit our future. And secondly, even though Simon the Pharisee humiliated her by calling her a sinful woman when she met Jesus, we must choose not to allow other people's external perceptions stop us moving forward. Now, finally, the third thing I think this story can help us in knowing how to respond when people label us is this. We can make choices today that'll shape our future forever. We're going to hear in just a moment what happened next in our story. You'll remember this woman has put aside her past and is pursuing her future. But in that moment, when she is most vulnerable, this religious man, a man with power and authority called Simon, has just humiliated her by labeling her a sinful woman. So now, all eyes are on Jesus for his response. What might happen next? Will she run out of the room, embarrassed and humiliated? Or will someone step in for her? Let's hear what happened next.
Then he turned toward the woman and said to Simon, "Do you see this woman? I came into your house, and you did not give me any water for my feet. But she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss, but this woman from the time I entered has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she has poured perfume on my feet. Therefore I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven, as her great love has shown. But whoever has been forgiven little loves little." Then Jesus said to her, "Your sins are forgiven." The other guests began to say amongst themselves, "Who is this who even forgives sins?" And Jesus said to the woman, "Your faith has saved you. Go in peace."
So there we have it. When all eyes are on Jesus, he totally defies expectation. He not only speaks positively of this woman, but also, and this would have been pretty shocking, he rebukes Simon, the religious man. You see, the woman had made the choice to go and meet Jesus. She knows what she needs to do to move into her future. So let's pause and think about what she did. You know, as she washed Jesus' feet and then dried them with her hair, she was humbling herself before him. In fact, she was making a huge sacrifice. Consider this. She comes with this jar of perfume. It was believed that this jar of perfume would have cost almost a year's income to buy. Now, in her line of work, you would imagine that she would want to make herself smell as good as possible in order to attract her customers. So in using this expensive perfume, she is making a sacrifice for Jesus. It's an act of worship. And not only that, she then goes on to dry his feet with her hair. Now again, one assumes that her look, having hair that looked perfect, would be a real benefit to her business. Yet she sets aside that because she wants to be with Jesus. And Jesus recognizes this and says that she has shown him great love that day. And seeing this attitude in her, Jesus honors her. You see, he knows her heart. Where Simon has labeled her a sinner, Jesus labels her forgiven. The choice she makes that day shapes her future forever. Listen, I want to speak to you if there's something stopping you getting to Jesus. If there's something about you or the things you have done that has led you to believe that if you were to go to church or come to Jesus, that you might not be accepted, then I want you to think again. You know, here at the Beacon, we want to be a place that welcomes people from all walks of life. We see right throughout Jesus' life that he welcomed people from all sorts of backgrounds here in this book, the Bible. And he showed them love, he showed them compassion, guiding them in how to enjoy everyday life. So whether it's a past experience or something going on in your life right now, whether it's how you look or what you believe, please don't let a label over you stop you from making a positive choice that will shape your future. I don't know what your situation is, but if you have ever considered that the label over you has held you back in any way, particularly in moving towards Jesus, then I want to encourage you to know that Jesus, who knows your heart, wants to rewrite your label. Jesus himself said this, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him." I think these words speak for themselves. God, as it says here, does not want to condemn you. He wants to offer you life. Listen, if you've been considering what it means to move towards Jesus and to become a Christian, then Sarah mentioned earlier about an online alpha course that will be running from November. It's a place to ask your questions and to find out more about the man Jesus and what it means to enjoy everyday life. Why not take a step today and sign up? Now, behind me, you'll have seen some of the labels that we've discussed today. These may be labels that you can relate to, labels that you have absorbed from experiences from your past, labels that have been spoken over you. You may even relate to more than one. As we come towards the end of our message today, I want to speak over you who Jesus says you are. They're all truths that come from the Bible, and he wants you to know his new identity. He encourages you to move towards him and invites you to do so today. So I wonder, has anyone ever declared or made you feel unwanted? You know, many of us might have experienced that. Well, today I believe that Jesus wants to tell you that you are chosen. Maybe something from your past has made you feel pretty broken. Maybe something someone did to you has left you feeling like you're falling apart, like you're not whole anymore. Then I believe that Jesus would speak over you today, that he is restoring you. You are restored through your belief in Jesus. Maybe life has left you feeling pretty lost. Maybe you're feeling you just don't know where to turn anymore. Maybe you've been forgotten about. Well, today I believe that Jesus wants to tell you that you are found. that the Good Shepherd has been searching for you, the one who loves you, and you can be known that you are found. Maybe something that you've done in your past has left you to feel guilty. Maybe you've been called a cheat. Maybe you've done something. Maybe you've been someone who has spent time in prison, or you've had to pay a price for what you've done. Maybe you're feeling guilty. Well, today, Jesus offers you the new label of forgiven. Forgiven because of what Jesus did on the cross for us all. And finally, maybe right throughout your life, you felt a sense of just being an outcast, that you're rejected, that you don't fit in. Well, I believe today that Jesus wants to include you. You can be included in his family. In this church, you can be included and know you have a place to belong. So as we come to the end, we're going to go back to a time of worship. And just as Jesus says to this woman, I pray that you will go in peace. And if anything that I've spoken about today has affected you and you'd like to speak to someone about it, or if you'd like to sign up to that online Alpha course, taking that one step into your future, then we'd love to encourage you to get in touch with us via our brand new email address, which is hello@beaconchurch.co.uk. You can do that now or maybe later, but I want to encourage you to make a choice today that will shape your future forever. We're going to go back over to the band now. Thanks for listening.